Um, so we will go ahead and get started. And actually, before I start, I do want you to hear from each of our students, just so that you can hear kind of where they're from and also their dissertation or research area, topic areas. So Renata, can I start with you?
Yes. So my name is Renata Archie. I live in New York City, specifically Brooklyn. I work at the district level here in the public schools. And I just graduated from the program. And my dissertation title was An Investigation of Black Principles, Self-Efficacy for Instructional Leadership, and Experiences with MTSS for Literacy Improvement. So all that to say, I looked into the experience of Black principals with MTSS and literacy, and I did some correlations to see if there were any relationships between a lot of the data that I collected.
Awesome, thank you. Una.
Hi, everyone. My name is Una Malcolm. I'm from Toronto, Canada. I am the president of IDA Ontario, and I work as the project lead on our ministry-funded project to support the rollout of our new language curriculum, our standards, as what we call it in Canada. And my dissertation focused on how to optimize online asynchronous teacher structured literacy training with facilitation meetings.
Wonderful. Jamie.
I'm Jamie Peeler. I live in Zionsville, Indiana, and I'm an assistant professor at MSJ and the program facilitator for the graduate reading science program. And my dissertation was on Tier 3 intensification using problem solving, structured problem solving, and instructional design.
Wonderful, thank you. And wrapping up our trailblazers, Tambra.
Hi, I'm Tambra Eisenberg, and I'm in South Williamsport, Pennsylvania. And I work for PATN, the Pennsylvania Training and Technical Assistance Network in Pennsylvania. And my dissertation topic was sound spelling wall tool development. So basically, I created a tool and was looking to see if we could measure teacher knowledge and application of sound spelling walls in the classroom, and then look to see if there was a correlation between that knowledge and application.
Wonderful, thank you. Mercedes.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mercedes Davila, and I am from Brooklyn, New York. I am a dual language kindergarten teacher at New York City Public Schools. This is ending my 18th year as a teacher. And my dissertation is going to be an oral language comprehension and engagement intervention on preschool English language learners. And I'm really excited about it.
Awesome, thank you. Lacey.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lacey Fisher, and I am from East Side, Michigan, a little tiny rural town north of Detroit. And I am a elementary curriculum coordinator as well as a preschool principal in my district. And my dissertation topic focuses on a program that is new to the science of reading. And I'm looking at building knowledge capacity, implementation of evidence-based practices, and self-efficacy around those practices. So I too, like Mercedes, am very excited about this work.
Wonderful, thank you. And Nicole.
Hi, everybody. My name is Nicole Flores, and I live in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I am a literacy specialist for the Institute for Multisensory Education. I am starting my second year in the program, and so my broad dissertation topic for right now is English language learners, and then somewhere around oral language maybe, or spelling. We're just going to say that for right now.
That's awesome. Thank you, Nicole. Yeah, when I was meeting with Mercedes earlier, I told her, I was like, we got to get Nicole in on your dissertation. So, yeah. Wonderful. So thank you all for sharing. I think it's nice as I start talking about the program to kind of hear from our students and understand we are very fortunate to have people from all over the country, and also people, and even Canada. Thank you, Una. And also people from very different roles, which we really value, having kind of a multidisciplinary approach in our student population as well as our faculty. So welcome to our information session. Tonight, we will kind of go over general things about the program. I have opportunities throughout our presentation to ask some questions of our panelists, our students, as well as Allison from our admissions office. I also will welcome you to put questions into the Q&A, and our panelists will answer questions as they can as things come up that are easy to answer. And if there's something that would be good for us all to hear, they will help bring those questions to the forefront. So please do put your questions as you have them into the Q&A. Then we'll talk about the application process, and that's where Allison will chime in, talk about some costs, and then also scholarship opportunities that we have in our program. So start our faculty. We have 5 full-time faculty members in the Reading Science Doctoral Program, 3 part-time faculty members. And so we're really fortunate to have a wonderful faculty group. We have people who have a background in psychology, school psychology, speech language pathology, classroom teachers, as well as special educators. So we're very fortunate to have a wonderful faculty group. Anita Archer, you may recognize. She is not formally part of our faculty, but she is actually co-teaching a class with me right now that Nicole is in. For our program, and she's a good friend of our program, as I'll mention a little later as well. She comes and joins our summer institute and spends the week with our students, and then also, as I said, is co-teaching a class right now with me, which is very fun. We just welcomed cohort 4, so here's cohort 4 right now. So currently in the program, we have 3 cohorts. Those who are just beginning their first year, cohort 4, and we have a little tradition in our program where the cohorts name themselves. And so cohort 4, some of people on this call may not know, but they name themselves. They are called the Freedom Fighters, and the word read is uppercase when you write it out. So the Freedom Fighters are just beginning with us this May. And then cohort 3 is Mavens, and Nicole is part of cohort 3. And then cohort 2, the Game Changers, Lacey and Mercedes are Game Changers, and they are beginning their 3rd year. And then, as I said, we're so fortunate that we now can tell you about the whole program from a student perspective, because we have our first group of graduates, our trailblazers. And they graduated just a couple weeks ago. And so we're so proud of all of them and so glad that they came back to share some of their experiences with you to kind of help us understand the whole student experience, and really helped us as a program build the program and understand what it takes and what is needed to help people get through their program. And I should say, with our trailblazers, we had 18 people who began their dissertation defenses in the spring of this semester, and I'm happy to say we had 18 people successfully graduate. And so we have a very high completion rate for our first group. We did have 2 people who began as a trailblazer and had to take some time off for different reasons, but one of them joined Game Changers early on, and one of them had to delay her dissertation, but they're on track to also complete the program. So we always say that when you're accepted, we plan to accept 20 people, and we plan to have 20 people graduate from our program. It's not a weeding out program. It's once you're in, you're one of us, and we want you to be successful and get through the program. So let's start with talking about who's eligible to apply for the doctoral program. So we are a doctoral program, a standalone doctoral program. So you do have to have completed an undergraduate degree and a master's degree in education or a related field. And I often get the question is, does it have to be a master's in education? And the answer is no, it can be in psychology or speech language pathology. We do have a number of people in related professions, and that is completely fine. But it does have to be a master's degree and an undergraduate degree completion. We are only able to accept people who are residents of Canada or the United States. And the reason for that, it's a complicated reason. We are a small university, and doing business in other countries is actually a pretty costly endeavor. And so every country that we would accept students from, accept their residents from, we actually have to set up like a business there, paperwork and costs and so forth. And as a small university, we just are not able to take on those costs. And so right now, we are only able to accept applicants who are residents of Canada and the United States. And we wish we could, because we do know we have some international people who would love to come, and we would love to have international students, but it really is just simply a cost challenge with a small university. I also like to kind of start off this information session talking about our purpose as a doctoral program. We started this doctoral program because we saw a need to make sure that teachers, through initial preparation and through their professional development and continuing education, are taught the science of reading when they're taught about reading. And we see this as something that is crucial solving the reading crisis in our country and moving towards a more socially just educational system for all children. And so we really see our mission to prepare educational leaders in the science of reading to affect social justice through impacting educational systems, enabling these systems to provide effective research-based instruction for all. And a couple key words in here, well, a couple I've already highlighted, but a couple other ones is educational leaders. So one of the things about our doctoral program that I talk about is we are really wanting to have in our program people who see themselves as leaders. You don't necessarily have to be in a formal leader role right now. You can absolutely be a building-based person, classroom teacher, a literacy specialist, but we're looking for people who have their sights on leadership to really impact systems and change how we teach reading in our country. So we also are really looking for those translators of science and those implementers. You learn a lot about research in our program, but our goal is more around implementation of research-based practices rather than people who will work in a research lab one day. So that's important to know, because different doctoral programs have a different purpose and focus, and that's really ours. We're looking for those leaders who can be translators and implementers of research-based practices and help spread the good word around the science of reading so that we can have a better educational outcomes for our children. So that's what we're about. We aim to prepare the next generation of education professors and literacy leaders who will transform our educational systems. Couple things about our program quality. We are a relatively new program, as I just talked about. We just had our first cohort graduate this May. And so before that, though, there was quite a lot of work to make sure that we had the quality indicators in place to be able to welcome our first cohort and begin our doctoral program. So we had a 2-year process of creating the program and all the accreditations that you have to go through. We have a longstanding tradition of a successful, fully accredited Science of Reading graduate program that's fully online. We were one of the first programs at the graduate level to be accredited by the International Dyslexia Association, and we've received re-accreditation from the International Dyslexia Association. So our doctoral program really has built off of what we've learned from the work in our graduate program, both how to do science of reading for educators, as well as how to do online course development and work. So even though we're a newer doctoral program, it's built off a long history of successful science of reading and online course development work. I also like to mention that at Mount St. Joseph University, all of our education programs are science of reading, science of learning programs. We have a very cohesive faculty around these principles of using research to guide our practice. We have an A+ in our undergraduate program from the National Council for Teacher Quality and are considered a model program from National Council for Teacher Quality in the preparation of undergraduate teachers as well. And we're really proud of that. Our dean is extremely supportive and knowledgeable about the science of reading, and actually teaches a class with me around higher education and preparing our girl students to teach in higher education. So with the doctoral program, we start one cohort every May, and so that's continuing in the future. You will do a total of 60 credits that are in the doctoral program. if you have to do the prerequisites, that 60 number doesn't include any prerequisites you might need. So there's 60 credits once you begin the doctoral program. And it's 3 full years, including summers. And so we have some on our sample program plans on our website. I know all these numbers don't make sense to you, but just kind of seeing the flow of it. It is a very busy 3 years for sure. You do 2 courses each semester, but 1 at a time. So you'll do 1 course for 7 weeks, and then you'll do a second course for 7 weeks. We do have 2 exceptions to that. In the summer of your second year, beginning your second year, in the summer beginning your third year, you actually take 3 courses, and they're purposely paired together. But that's how we get it all done in 3 years. When we think about our courses, we kind of think about some kind of groupings of courses. You take a group of courses around leadership and systems change, and there's elements of leadership and systems change, I would say, in all of our courses, but courses that are very specifically targeted in that way. And then you take a set of courses around research and statistics, and these are all guided towards getting you ready for your dissertation. And then you take a set of courses around implementing and designing and implementing your dissertation work across the 3rd year. And then, of course, the largest chunk of our coursework is very specific to language reading and writing. So courses around the science of reading. We think of year 1 as really deepening your knowledge and building your leadership skills in terms of the coursework that you take. Year 2 is when you really, beginning in the summer of year 2, we begin to talk to you about your dissertation. So Nicole was just getting her feet wet, thinking about what is her research topic and what is she going to focus on as she begins her second year. And then throughout the second year, you take a research sequence where you go deeper into figuring out your dissertation, as well as learning different research methodologies. And then in your 3rd year, you start your dissertation work and do your dissertation work starting in the summer of your 3rd year across the fall and spring, with defending your dissertation in March and April of the spring of your 3rd year, and then graduating in May. So that's just kind of a little overview of how our courses work. I'm going to pause for a second to see if there's any questions that would be good to bring up for the whole group yet.
Amy, could you talk a little bit about the prerequisites, specifically if you do have prerequisites, when do those courses begin?
Great question. Actually, can I ask if we can hold? That's a great question, and it's a very common one. So I am going to talk about prerequisites, but if it's okay, I think I'll hold that until I get to that part of the slides, because I think my slides will help me. Thank you though, Jamie. So another thing to know about our program, during the school year, it's fully online. We do have synchronous meetings that you will all come together on Zoom and meet with your faculty member throughout a course. And then in the summer, we have a summer institute, which is across the last week of June, typically. And it's 5 days, and everybody comes on campus, and we have activities across that whole week. And during that week, we have opportunities for you to get to know your cohort better, so those you will be traveling with. We also have very specific cross-cohort activities. We always choose a book, and we all read the same book and have a book discussion. We also have special guests who come and spend the week, or not often the whole week, but spend some time with us. Anita Archer spends the whole week with us, but most of our guests come for a day or 2. And then we also have class meetings. So the courses that you take in the summer will also have face-to-face meetings, which is nice. And then we also have some social and fun events just to get to know each other better. And we really find that the Summer Institute is a nice way to make connections and really build a community that really sustain us across the year when we are, online. It's easier to feel comfortable with people online when you've gotten to know them in person. So we do that the last week of June each year. So this is just a very confusing schedule that just shows that there's lots of activities across the 5 days, and we we mix that with fun as well as, you know, good cross cohort activities. So here's like part of our, I think this was part of the book discussion. And then we also, on the middle of the week, we have a community conference. And those of you who are in your second year in the program do presentations for a community conference. We also have keynote speakers, and all the faculty also present. So it's a wonderful opportunity to hear each other present, as well as we see it as a way to give back to our community. And it's a wonderful day of a conference. So here's just some pictures from our past community conference sessions. Past keynote speakers that we had, our very first one was actually online because it was the pandemic. Louisa Moats, and then we had Julie Washington. Last year we had Elsa Cardenas-Hagen. And this summer we're looking forward to Dr. Marianne Wolf and Dr. Anita Archer presenting and talking with our students. And then at the Summer Institute, we also have some fun. And so cohorts often, you know, have gatherings together. They go out to dinner together. We have things on campus that we do. In the past, we've done kickball, where cohorts play kickball against each other. This year, we're mixing it up and we're doing family game night because there were some injuries in kickball that we want to try to avoid. But we have a mix of deep, intense learning as well as some fun together, which again, we find to be very important. So this is my first place where I want to pause and I want to pose some frequently asked questions to our panelists, as well as seeing if there's any other questions. And I haven't forgot the prerequisite one. I promise I will get to that later. But if there's any questions about the content I've presented so far. All right, so here's probably the biggest question I hear from prospective students. We do say our program is built for the full-time educator, and with maybe one or two exceptions, all 60 students in our program are working full-time as well as doing the doctoral program, and many people have family responsibilities as well. So this question, what is the workload like? And are you able to balance work, family, and doctoral work? And do you have any tips for successful management? I'll just open it up to whoever wants to go first.
I'll go, Amy.
Lacey.
It's Lacey. I think you can absolutely balance. I have 3 young kids, 12, 9, and 7. So they were 2 years younger than that when I started. And I think making sure some of the tips I've found that really work are keeping to-do lists. So kind of knowing what it is that you have to accomplish each week, as well as investing in some things like timers or things to kind of keep you on track and not be distracted when you do have those windows of time that you can work. A lot of times for me, that looks more like at night after my kids are in bed. And so really being productive during that time helps chip away at it, but you absolutely can manage this on top of a career and family responsibilities as well.
Thanks, Lacey. Yeah, organization is key for sure. Anyone else want to dive into this one?
I'll dive in. Especially what you just mentioned. You said organization is key, and I think that's really super important as you work through this program. Again, I work full time. I'm at work at 7 in the morning. I work a full day. I come home. I have a husband. I have kids. I have a pet. There's and so many other things, right? And it's really important that you put yourself on a schedule. You give yourself weekly goals. I give myself goals for every single day, and I stick to those goals. But also, I am not a person to stay up late because, working with kindergartners, you have to kind of be awake, right? So I am in bed by 9 o'clock and I get my work done before that. So I go to work all day and I make dinner or I order out, whichever is more convenient on that particular day, but everyone gets fed and I do my work for a few hours and I'm still in bed by 9 o'clock. And I do it every day, right? Because you have to make sure you keep yourself on a schedule. Otherwise things will back up. And that's really what can be difficult if you don't keep yourself on a schedule.
Thanks, Mercedes.
I'll add on to what Mercedes said. When you come into the program, I think thinking about what is on your plate and how you're going to organize yourself is important. You do have conversations with your family too. That's one of the biggest piece. So when Mercedes talked about dinner and all of that, yes, family's there, the house is there. And so kind of evaluating all that is in your life right now and thinking about, are you ready to add this also to your plate? Your family has to adjust. I was on the side, I was on the side of the soccer field reading. I was sitting in the car reading. It worked. Everything mushes together. So it definitely works out, but also everyone adjusts. And now graduating, you see your family happy to have you back properly.
Yeah.
I would say one.
Go ahead, Jean. Yeah.
No, one other thing was maybe starting off, I knew that there would be an additional, consistent commitment of reading, writing, collaborating with classmates on projects. But I don't think I was realistic in the expectation that everything would stay the same and I would just add something else on. Partway through the first year, I really had to be honest with myself about the things that I probably needed to let go of. So I stepped back responsibilities on boards, maybe stopped volunteering for as many school things with my own children. So I think being honest with yourself about there are probably things that you might not be as active in during a 3-year commitment like this. And what you put in equals what you're getting out. So if you do want to get the most out of the program, that's something that you want to think about going in.
Yeah, this is all excellent advice. One little thing I meant to add, and I'll just add it here, is we tell our students when they first come in, and even before during the interview, the doctoral program is, you think about it as a part-time job. And we know you already have a full-time job and you have families. So to many of the points that were made, it is important to think about, what can I give up? Is this the right time for me to take this on? Because we do think about it as about 20 to 25 hours a week. And we've checked in with our students a number of times, and what people tell us, and I see some shaking heads, is that that's pretty much true. Yeah, some weeks are a little less, some weeks might be a little more for sure. But on average, I think that's a helpful way to think about it, to Mercedes and really everybody's point of thinking about your schedule and how do I fit those hours in? And people have different ways depending on what their job is and their other responsibilities. So thank you all. All right, I'll move to the next question. What would you say is the best part of the doctoral program at MSJ?
I think for me, I would say it's the community, whether that be your cohort of the peers who you're moving through the program with year over year and become really quite close and connected with. But then also the faculty community as well, recognizing, I think, especially for me after the dissertation process, realizing how closely you work with your chair and any committee members who guide your work and evaluate your work. I think it's something that I didn't anticipate would be one of the best things. I think going in, I thought, oh, this will be a tremendous learning opportunity. And it was, and I've learned so much. But I think more as well in terms of the really it's the community and the connections with peers and with faculty.
I'll second that, Una. I don't know if you could see, I couldn't hide my big smile. The community is amazing. Going into a doctoral program, you're ready to learn and you're ready to grow in that way. But what I wasn't prepared for is my 19 new best friends. And it is truly a special program because of the cohort model. We're checking in on people's kids and how did the baseball game go last night and prom's tomorrow. And it's become almost like, how did I make it without my people? How did I do this before? And so beyond the learning, it's that family component, but it also fuels the learning, the conversations that you have together, because there are so many perspectives and everyone has different jobs. They bring a perspective to a problem or a question that you didn't have. So you're growing and making these deep connections at the same time. And it's really special.
I would also add opportunities. So throughout the coursework, students have had opportunities to engage with key researchers in the field that we would probably otherwise not have access to. So, you know, in addition to having Anita Archer working and teaching courses, we've had, you know, small group conversations with Louisa Moats and Lucy Hart-Paulson, and not just having these conversations, but actually getting to participate in projects with people that we respect deeply, and that those opportunities are in place moving forward, even when you leave the program. So I think that's unique to this program specifically.
Thank you all. Yeah, I would say faculty feel that as well, that we just feel like we've built this amazing network of professional contacts, as well as, kind of, as Una said, friends, you know, like we really truly believe that we are like our little MSJ family. And it's so wonderful because everybody, including faculty, are working in the field. And so when you have a problem, you have, or a question about, hey, does anybody know about this reading? This new reading thing came out. Does anybody know about it? Or can anybody support me in this professional development I have to do tomorrow? And so it's just this lovely network of trusted colleagues that you now can lean into and learn from. So I agree. It's that community, both student and faculty. We just are so fortunate to have been able to interact with each other. All right, so I'm going to ask the other side of that question. What's the challenging part of doing the doctoral program?
So for me, I think one of the things was, especially early on, before you kind of find your groove, there are some activities that you have, you know, this great blessing of being able to work with this new group of people, but there is group work and sometimes scheduling with, you know, people in different time zones and figuring out your own. Sometimes that can be a bit of a challenge. And I would say that you need to have a pretty strong ability to write well and efficiently to really be successful in the program, although there are resources if that's something that you struggle with.
Yeah, you learn a lot about how to write well too across the program, but I would say that is something that people come in with some strengths at least on with writing, because you do a lot of writing as you would in any doctoral program for sure. Yeah, thanks, Cameron.
I know that there are a lot of people that are not comfortable with public speaking and with group work. And, you know, we do presentations. And for some of us, it was like our very first time standing in front of groups of people. So, you know, depending on the person, that can be very challenging for some, right? And just, I think also, again, going back to just making sure that if you're not the type of person that likes to sit and read, then this is probably not for you. So making sure, right, that we're all readers, we're all like reading nerds, right? We love books, we love to read, and if that's the type of person that you are, this is going to be great. But if reading is a challenge for you and you don't really enjoy it as much, something to think about, right? It could be a challenge.
Yeah, and sorting through how to tackle that large amount of reading when you first begin, I think many people struggle with that at first. Just again, getting through it, and it's a different kind of reading and writing that possibly you've been used to in other, in other modes of your life. So yeah, that's great. Great. All right, thank you. And I have a couple other kind of stopping points where we can ask our panelists some questions as well. So one of the things that we are super fortunate to be able to share with our students is tuition scholarships. So a couple of years ago, we had a very generous foundation, or a private family foundation, grant us large amounts of money to be able to provide supports for our students. And so the biggest support is they have given us the ability to provide scholarships for every single accepted student. And you will get a scholarship that covers 80% of your tuition, starting with this next cohort. And so we had scholarships previously, and then this new round of scholarships is even at a higher level, and this will be granted to all of our current students as well. But starting with the cohort that people on this call are inquiring about, as well as the cohort after that, so cohort 5 and 6, there will be 80% tuition scholarships for all accepted students. And then we also now have additional need-based scholarships that can be a full scholarship for those who qualify based on need. And our need-based scholarships are based on, professional educators. So it's not that you have to, have such a need, but demonstrated need that covering a doctoral tuition would be difficult. And applying for those scholarships, let me go back to this. Applying for those scholarships are just part of applying to the program. The only addition is if you are interested in being considered for a full tuition scholarship, you do need to fill out the FAFSA, because we use the rest of your application materials plus the FAFSA to understand those who have a demonstrated financial need. But all of those other scholarships, the 80% tuition scholarships, that's just our regular admission process, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit. But there's nothing additional you need to do unless you're interested in the full tuition scholarship, which is need-based. So we're very fortunate to be able to offer those thanks to our private foundation donor. So on this slide, it just kind of talks through what our tuition rate is with the total credits, what that would be in terms of total tuition, and then what your scholarship would be, and then what you would be left with across the full 3 years. Okay, so that I often get asked that, so I just did the math for you and calculated it out. And then I also at the bottom showed credit hours across the year. The first year you take, as I said, just 2 courses in the first summer. After that first summer, you do take 3 courses in your second summer and your third summer. Additional costs that people kind of want to know about often are the application fee. We also do have people buy books in our program. So there's a book, a cost of buying books, like that varies by class for sure. And then there is a graduate student fee across the year that the university does also charge. So that's kind of a rundown of the costs of the program. I'm going to start talking about the prerequisites in a second, but I also wanted to share that we do have in our graduate program, we have a reading science certificate. The reading science certificate is 5 courses, and those are our 5 prerequisites for the doctoral program. So some people just do the reading science certificate because they're interested in that content and that knowledge. Some people do the reading science certificate because they're interested in getting into the doctoral program, and they know they don't have that coursework. If you know you don't have the prerequisite coursework and this is something you know you need to take on, I do like to just mention that starting this year, we are also able to provide need-based tuition scholarships. These are competitive, but they're, again, a full tuition scholarship based on need. And that does have a couple pieces in terms of the application process that Allison can share with you if that's of something of interest to you. And then in the doctoral program, we also, thanks to this funder, are able to provide a number of other opportunities kind of to what Jamie was talking about in order to help our students get connected to experts in the field. We have two opportunities that are kind of connected to that. The first is we have a generous amount of funds to bring contributing faculty into our programs. And we do that through webinars. So Jamie mentioned Lisa Motes and Lucy Hart-Paulson. We've had Wes Hoover talk with our group. We've also had different research experts. So we had a survey researcher talk to our group, a meta-analysis expert talk to our group. So we're really fortunate that we have funds that we can bring in additional expertise to talk and connect with our students as well. Also, every student in the doctoral program gets 2 opportunities to go to a national conference and given a stipend of $1,500 each opportunity to cover registration and other travel costs. Our goal for our doctoral students is to attend 2 conferences throughout their 3 years with us. Some people do a lot more than that because they have other ways of being able to do that. But this funding also helps our students to be able to do that. And we have targeted conferences that we encourage you to attend that are science of reading, that our faculty also attend. And it's very fun because we all get together, we go to sessions together, we get to talk about it, we go out for dinner together. So it's also another way for us to connect across the school year, in addition to, you know, our time together in the summer. At the end of the conference, we always do a debriefer on Zoom for everybody who went. We kind of all come on Zoom and talk about, you know, what did you go to? What did you learn? So it's another wonderful, wonderful opportunity to connect and network with different people as well. Also, with our new funding, we are able to do paid teaching assistance for our doctoral students, especially doctoral students who are very interested in teaching in higher ed. This is a great resume builder as well as a way to get more experience, you know, to see if you might be interested in higher ed. You're not sure, but you do a couple TAs and we might be able to convince you to come to higher education. And so after your second year, and I'm sorry, at the beginning of your second year, you take a course around teaching in higher education. As part of that course, you are a TA that's required as part of that course. It's our one little practicum course where you work with a doctoral faculty member who's teaching a graduate course, and you're a TA in that course in our fully online reading science graduate program. Then after that, if you would like more opportunities, those then would be paid. And so that's new this year, which we're excited about. So those are kind of our wonderful opportunities thanks to our generous funder. A couple other things to know about our program. We do have some program requirements. We do require the KPERI, which is the Center for Effective Reading Instructions test. That's the center that's connected to IDA, Science of Reading Assessment. Some of you on this call may have already done the KPERI for something else in your life. So if you graduated from Mount St. Joseph's Master Dyslexia Certificate program, you did it. We don't make you retake it. So if you have it in your past already, you can just submit that. If you haven't done the KPERI, we ask that you take it as part of your first summer with us. So that's an early on requirement. And then at the end of your second year, you get to put together a program portfolio. So Mercedes and Lacey just turned theirs in this week, which is very exciting. And that is kind of your exam. Instead of an exam, we do a portfolio to qualify you as a doctoral candidate going into your third year and enabling you to do your dissertation. And then we also do have a dissertation, as you heard our wonderful graduates and students talk about their dissertations that they have done or are planning to do. The dissertation does include a full research project and an oral defense in front of your committee and your invited peers, and that's at the very end of the program. So I often get a lot of questions about the dissertation, and I don't know if there's questions in the chat yet, but all students, as I said, do a dissertation as part of our program. Each student will form a committee. So, and this is where you get to choose. At the beginning of the program, you are assigned a program advisor, and that is really random because all the advisors do the same thing. It doesn't really matter if they have the same research area that you're interested in or not. Program advising is really just about, you know, what courses are you taking? How are you doing? What questions do you have? But your dissertation, you get to choose your person who will lead that dissertation work with you, your dissertation chair. And then you will also choose another faculty member to be on the committee. So you work really closely with your chair. That's the person who guides your dissertation. And then your committee member is another person to give you input and also guidance around the dissertation. So as I said at the beginning, and you heard some of our students talk about, you begin to really formally think about your dissertation beginning of your second year. So we try, and we've gotten better across time, but we try to really help you kind of plant the seeds around dissertation after your first year. You've gotten your good foundation. Now you're ready to think about, what do I want to tackle in terms of research? And we have opportunities across your second year to help you flesh out what you want to do for your dissertation. And that is our research and statistics series. And I will tell you that for many people I talk to, not just some, but many people I talk to, research and statistics is a scary thing. Some of our students, it's not. So some of our students do come in with a good background in this, and this is an easier sequence. But I would say most of our students, that's probably the thing that scares them the most is research and statistics. Because in education, if you have a master's degree in education, you probably didn't take a whole lot of research and statistics. And so that can be scary. And so one thing I like to tell people is we are an education doctorate degree, even though a lot of our faculty have different backgrounds, but we are an education doctoral degree. And so that's what we're basing our research and statistics series on. So we assume that you're coming in with what you would have gotten in a typical education master's degree. And so we really do begin at the beginning in terms of research and statistics. We do a lot, across time, and people learn a lot, but it is, I think, appropriate for where you would be coming from if you are, graduated. You're coming to us with a master's degree in education. Another thing that Anita Archer has been kind to our program about is she set up a dissertation fund for our doctoral students. So at the end of their second year, as they're planning their dissertation, they have access to funding that can help them with implementation of their dissertation. Thanks to Anita Archer. All right, so I have another little question here, because again, this is typically a big one, and I already had our students share their dissertation topics, but I wonder if any of you may share anything about your, especially those of you who are either finished or at least proposing, kind of your journey to choosing your dissertation topic. And did that change? Did you come in knowing what you wanted to do? Did it change? Because I think different people would answer that differently. So anybody want to tackle that one?
I just answered a question in the Q&A, so, the same thing. I think some people come in with a very clear idea of what they wanted to do, and that might have stayed the same or changed. Some people have no idea, and the coursework is designed to help get you there. So for me, I had an idea because I work for the last, I was a kindergarten teacher, I was a literacy coach, then I moved to support principals from the district level. So that was very much what I wanted to focus in on. But the specific what, all of my coursework and those research classes helps you understand how that can shape into a research project. What kind of questions am I asking? And how does that, how do I measure that? So you coming into the program, I don't think any of us had that knowledge. So yes, so the program is designed to take you there. So I did come in with an idea, but it was shaped and formed through many discussions and meetings, and it all came together.
Thank you.
So I had a mess. I had several things I was interested in. I was interested in intensification across tiers. I was interested in structured literacy, Orton Gillingham, phonics instruction specifically. And then through some of the coursework, discovered this whole world of practice and mastery. So I had all of these things, but then it was in, the process with the chair, and my chair was Amy, that there became a way to connect all of those ideas, those research areas together to create the dissertation. So I was definitely a person who didn't have a solid plan on what I wanted to study, but interest. So I think as long as you have an interest in something, figuring out how that might become a dissertation is something that you work on with your chair.
I would piggyback off of those same comments. I think one really important thing that I loved throughout the journey is kind of what both Renata and Jamie already spoke about, but also that through the process, a lot of times, like Amy spoke earlier, we are all full-time working somewhere. And so the topic can be connected to what you're already doing, because it can't necessarily be some big additional thing. And so that process makes it really nice too, because a lot of times it is connected to the work you're already doing in a school district or for an entity that you work for. And so that makes it just that much more impactful, but also that much more doable. So the process is very heavily supported. And I think as long as you come in with some of those like high passion areas that you've always been interested in, you're in a really good spot, because that's where we all started. And it will work itself out, even though it seems like this big giant mountain. You'll keep chipping away and taking steps towards the top all throughout. So
Yeah, that's great. And I think the majority of our students don't come in with a clear idea of what they want to do. Usually they're, as Lacey said, they're passionate about things, and often they're passionate about many things. And actually, I just talked to one of the mavens earlier. I guess that was yesterday. And she was like, I think I either want to do preschool or high school. It's like, well, those are two very different areas, which is great because she works across you probably know who I'm talking about, Nicole. She works across all the grade levels, and that's wonderful. So yeah, I think as all three said, it's important to pick something you're passionate about, but we also help you get there and doable. We always say that too. Like, we want to get you done, and for a dissertation, you have kind of a short time frame to implement something. So part of it, you may have a great idea, but it's something that's just not doable within that time frame. So we help you kind of harness your passion in a way that's also, doable. And it's wonderful when it's connected to your work or something that's going to help you professionally. That's even better. And many of our students do things that are connected to their work, as Lacey mentioned. And the big thing I think to think about, again, we know you have choices as well. So if you're trying to think, am I a good match for Mount St. Joe? Is Mount St. Joe a good match for me? Our program is, as I said, really focused on implementation. And so thinking about, if you're somebody who's really interested in neuroscience, we don't have fancy labs at Mount St. Joe, and you're not on campus. So doing topics that are about school practice, implementation, professional development, those are the type of topics that our students do. Some of our students have access to children, and so they're able to do implementation studies, or they're connected to a faculty's research, and so they're able to do implementation studies through, faculty research. Some don't, and so they do, Renata has access to children, but she did a survey because that was her interest and so forth. So we do all different kinds of dissertations. But again, the focus is really on implementation and how can we make things better in schools, and what are the questions we have that need to be answered around practices for instruction. So,
Amy, can I say one more thing?
Please.
I think my chair, Dr. Stoller, had some statistics on this, but just for the audience to know, I know we all have friends in the program who are going through another doctoral program somewhere, and we've heard so many stories about when the breakdown happens. And I know Amy already stated they get you to the finish line, but our experience in this program is like no other. No one is left behind. And I think programs in general sometimes do not have the structure and the support that we received coming through this, specifically for the dissertation projects. That's a lot of times where it breaks down and people kind of get lost in the sauce and end up not finishing their program. So this is a very, there wouldn't be more than 100 people on this call if you weren't, interested in this special program. So just wanted to make sure you know that.
Yeah, thank you, Renata. And that's true. We do expect all of our students to get done and want to support them get done. So that's really important to our faculty for sure. Thank you. All right, let's talk a little bit about the application process and the prerequisites. Allison, is there anything that you want to say to kick off this part of the presentation?
No, the good news is that we have a separate doctoral application this year, so it will hopefully be less confusing when we choose, when you have the list of reading science programs, it will be specific to the doctoral program. So hopefully it's easier, but my contact information is there. So you can reach out anytime during the application process.
Yeah, and I'll just say Allison is extremely responsive and just wonderful. We're very fortunate to have her as our admissions person in reading science. And, you know, she's been with us since the beginning of the doctoral program, so is extremely knowledgeable about how everything works. So we're lucky to have her. So definitely reach out if you have questions. The application process is pretty, I think, straightforward and similar to probably most application processes. The link here takes you right to the application, and you can choose the doctoral application. We do ask for official transcripts. There is an essay, and there's a specific essay prompt, and I will tell you, we look very closely at that essay because we are looking for a match with our program. We are unique in terms of who we're preparing and what we're preparing you for, and we want to make sure that this is the right match for you and for us in terms of who we accept into the program. So definitely take your time with that essay and thinking about how are you showing us that you're a good match with our program, that your model of practice matches what we're going to be, you know, exposing you to, because we want to make sure that we are the right place for you and that we can support what your goals are for your education. We also are looking at that essay, your knowledge of the science of reading. We are a doctoral program in the science of reading, assuming that you have master's level science of reading experience already. So you do not have to do the Mount St. Joseph master's degree in reading science. Absolutely not. In fact, on this call, I think just one person did. And so an honor panelist. And so I think there was a rumor at one point that that was true. And I would say that's not at all true. And in fact, we have many more people who don't do our master. We have some of the people who've gone through our master's degree continue on to the doctoral, but most people in the doctoral program, that's not something they have. They have other experiences that demonstrate their competence, which I'll talk about in a second. Your professional resume, we are looking for, because we're preparing leaders, we are really looking for at least 3 years of teaching experience or educational experience. If you're an SLP, that's fine, 3 years as an SLP, because we're not, you know, we're really training those who are already kind of poised to be leaders or already leaders in many cases. So we're looking for that. I would say, I think there's a trend, at least I have seen it, because before I did the doctoral program, I was the program director of the graduate program, and I have seen a trend towards a slimmer resume, which probably is good for job applications. I'd say don't do the slimmer resume for us. Really show us everything, because we're looking for your background and experience in education. And so, you know, I think a one-pager is not a great, in general, is not a great practice for this application. Really make sure you tell us everything you've done and show us what you've done on your resume. We are also looking for professional references. So we ask for 3 professional references and 2 people who will fill out a confidential reference form. And I would say a little caution, choose those people wisely, because we do, you know, it's a competitive application process. So we do look at all of the pieces, and this is a piece that we are really looking for. So make sure you're choosing somebody who knows you and can speak to your competency, can speak to your collaboration skills and to your knowledge of the science of reading. Sometimes people don't choose as wisely as maybe they should have. So, you know, think about choosing a strong person. And these are professional references. So it's not your friend or, you know, family member, but of course, so think about, you know, professional references, but people who can speak to your background in a strong way. And then now let's talk about the prerequisites, because that's a piece that I get a lot of questions about, and Allison gets a lot of questions about. So first of all, just kind of as an overall kind of thought around the prerequisites, why do we have prerequisites? As I said, we really see our doctoral program picking up where our master's degree left off. And so even though you don't have to have done our program, we want to make sure you have core components that are from our program. And so that's what we came up with the prerequisites. The core component courses in our program, we're looking for demonstration of covering that content in either a graduate degree or other experiences. Because of our volume of applicants, I cannot review nor can Allison review transcripts and things ahead of time. We tried to do that with cohort 1 and it really bogged us down, and it was very difficult, to be honest, because it's really, we're looking at you as a whole. And so just looking at, you know, do you fill this prerequisite box? We ask you to, you know, fill in how you think you fill that content knowledge. But it's also through the interview process, through the full review of your application, that we make those determinations. And so what we ask you to do is just fill out that prerequisite form the best you can, and know that it's looked at in addition to everything. Your application, your resume, your essay, it's all looked at holistically. And then through the interview, we ask questions that help us understand this as well. And then when we make that determination, if I accept you into the program and I make the determination, I think you need these 2 prerequisites, for example, it's a conversation. Sometimes I, you know, am presented with additional information, and then I say, oh, you know, okay, you're right. I think you have covered that. So just know it's an imprecise process. And it's purposefully imprecise because we didn't want to say, you have to do these prerequisites. If I don't see this exact thing on your transcript, I'm making you do the prerequisites. We didn't want to do that because we don't want you to do things you already know. The intent is really to make sure you have the prerequisite knowledge to jump into this doctoral program and be successful. That is 100% our intent. And so if you've been able to get that content in different ways, we want to honor that. It's just a little trickier that way. And so the process is more imprecise because it's really looking at people's unique background of professional development and other courses and so forth. One caution I will say about the prerequisites is, you know, use that form. If you want to write a little narrative about how it all fits together, that's great. Something I would caution you against is drowning us in paper. It's better to describe what you've done and maybe to have a couple of things of, hey, here's my certificate of completion of this, rather than giving me a 50-page syllabus of that course. I'll ask for more information if I have questions, or our team has questions, but that just sometimes you can't see the forest through the trees in that case. And so trying to be concise, definitely provide documentation, but be concise, and then just know if we have questions, we'll follow up with additional questions. And keep in mind, the intent behind it is to make sure you have the background that is going to enable you to be successful in this program. So I don't think we're doing anybody any favors by saying, oh, you don't have to take this, when we see that it's a hole in your learning. So that's kind of the other piece of this. And descriptions of our prerequisites are on that form. I know this is a hard to read slide. I just mainly put it up to let you know. On that form, we tell you the description of the course. We also tell you the key objectives and key readings, so that you can, you know, kind of understand what we're looking for in terms of covering that content. So the prerequisite form is on our website. You can download it, and again, just do your best filling it out, and, you know, attach the needed documentation, but please don't overwhelm us with documentation, because that usually doesn't work in your favor because it's just hard to sort through. So some things that often we can look at and say, hey, that's going to meet our prerequisites. Our master's degree is an IDA accredited program. So you went to another IDA accredited master's degree program. That's pretty easy, because we know that program also follows the knowledge and practice standards of IDA. And so if we see that you've had phonics at another IDA accredited program, that's an easy one for us to say, oh, yep, you know, she or he met that prerequisite. One of our prerequisites is a structured literacy practicum. We do Orton Gillingham. Prerequisite does not have to be Orton Gillingham. That's also a misunderstanding, I think, about our program, is that it has to be Orton Gillingham. It doesn't. We've had students who've done practicums in direct instruction or phonics lesson library from 95% group. We're really looking for, with this prerequisite, that you have experience implementing structured literacy instruction in classrooms. And so again, if it's not as a one little certificate that you can give us, you can write a little description and we'll probe you on that. That's probably the biggest one I have conversations with people about. But if you did do a structured literacy practicum that's on the IDA accredited program list, that's pretty easy for us to say, oh, check, she or he has that. Often people ask me if things like letters training or top 10 training would meet a prerequisite course. By itself, typically the answer is no. But sometimes people have letters training and then they became a facilitator and then they also did this, and this. So again, it's not, I wish we could easily just provide you a list and you could check off. It's just not that simple, because just going through letters training is not equivalent to a graduate level course in the science of reading, but some other experience that you've had with that could possibly. So again, the best advice I can give people is clearly write down what you've done, look at our description and kind of match your experiences to our description. And, don't try to oversell if it's really not there and you need to take the class. I'd say take the class. And I'm going to ask our panelists to address that, because I know many people on this panel take prerequisites in just a second. So so this just kind of reiterates our goal with these is to make sure you have the knowledge and skills to be successful, because our goal is 100% graduation rate. And we can't reach our goal if you come in without the needed skills that you just have to be successful in a reading science doctoral program. So if you only need one or two prerequisites, so our application process for the doctoral program opens in July. We make decisions by mid-December, and we have one semester, our spring semester, before you start the doctoral program in May, our summer semester. So if you only need one or two prerequisites, you can be accepted into the program and take those prerequisites in the spring semester, and you take them with your doctoral cohort. So we have a special section just for you guys. So it's kind of nice because you get to know other people in your program a little bit earlier. And then you can start in May. If you need more than two, if you need all five or even 3 or 4, you would be encouraged to, take those and apply again the next time. So if you need our prerequisites, an easy way to get those done is by doing our reading science certificate. Not that you have to do our reading science certificate, but that's a way to know, hey, I need these, I can do the reading science certificate, then I know I'm set up well to do the doctoral program. Doing our reading science certificate, though, does not guarantee that you'll get into our doctoral program. It's just a way to strengthen your application to show that you have that content knowledge. All right, any questions about prerequisites before I move on?
Amy, there was a question sort of not specifically about prerequisites, but when you reflect on the accepted applicants, what were some common characteristics that candidates had that increased their acceptance into the program?
Ooh, that's a great question.
That was a good one.
Yeah, that's a great one. So we're looking for a few things. So we get this question in interviews a lot. So people on this panelist who've helped me with interview have heard me say this, but we're definitely looking for people who know the science of reading. That's crucial, because we will not do you any service if you start this program and you don't have deep knowledge in the science of reading. We are looking for people who have goals that match our program goals. We are looking for people who want to change the world and bring about, better educational outcomes for children, and who care about teachers and want to support teachers in education. And then we're looking for people who are good colleagues. We are an extremely collaborative community, as you've kind of already heard. And so we are looking for people who can be kind and can share knowledge, I always say we don't have a rock star in our program. We are a program of rock stars. We intentionally don't, call out people for, hey, you're the one in the program that's so smart. We truly are a program that has amazing students, and we are looking for other students who want to be collaborators and problem solvers and support each other, rather than people who want to be the superstar. So if you're looking to be a superstar of a program, we're definitely not for you. And we are really looking for that in our interviews. In our interviews, we always have a faculty member and a doctoral student in the interview. And that's purposeful. One, we think that's nice for the interviewee because you can ask questions of the doctoral student, get their perspective. Again, we know you are also looking to see if MSJ is a fit for you. But we also really value the doctoral student's perspective on all of it, but also, hey, would you want to be in a group project with that person, right? Is that somebody we can work with and that will be a good colleague? So those are kind of really key things that we're looking for in our application process. Yeah.
Amy, there's a few questions that are very similar. Would you suggest people take a look at the prerequisite form right now, just to kind of see? I think they want to know if they are starting these classes in the fall. Some people are already starting these classes in the fall, when they might apply for this program.
Okay, so if you're starting like the reading science certificate in the fall, and we have a number of people, I can't remember if there's anybody on this call who might fit this description, who started the reading science certificate, and then when they were accepted into the doctoral program, they finished it up and then moved into the doctoral program. So if you take the courses in the fall and in the spring, depending sometimes people can meet that structured literacy practicum course with other experiences. So I would say that's the course that you would be missing by the time you start the program, because the reading science certificate is 5 courses. You do 2 in the fall, 2 in the spring, and then your 5th one is that structured literacy practicum. So if you can meet that in a different way from your professional experience, then yes, and we have people in that boat all the time in terms of our cohorts. So possibly, depends on your background again. But if you need that practicum because you don't have structured literacy experience, then you could go into the next cohort. Yeah, great. All right, so the timeline is kind of listed here. We open, as I said, the admissions window July 1st. So the application is not yet available. It will open July 1st. The deadline for we say there's 2 admissions rounds, but we have never used the second admissions round. So we say if we don't fill with our first round of admissions, we will open a second, but I would not count on that because, as I said, 4 cohorts in, we have not even come close to needing to look at that second round of admissions. So let's just pretend that it's just the first one. We keep it there just in case, because you never know. It opens July 1st. The deadline is November 1st, and that is a hard deadline because of our numbers and our ability to promise this, you will hear by December. We cut it off November 1st, and Allison and I always get emails like November 2nd saying, oh, I'm so sorry, I forgot, so, and we have, just to be fair to everyone, we have to kind of take a hard line on that. So please get your materials in before November 1st. So you'll have plenty of time because it'll open July 1st and you'll have plenty of time to get them in. And the hardest thing is the things you're not in control of, like the recommendations. That's probably the biggest one that I know causes a little angst. So choose your recommenders carefully and follow up with them to make sure they have their materials in. And Allison's great about communicating what's in and what's not in. So you'll know where you are, but we do take that as a hard and fast line. And then we schedule interviews across November into early December, and we promise to have decisions to you by December 20th. So in order to keep our promise, as I said, we have to keep all the other pieces in place. So let's start with the prerequisite question, if you don't mind. So if you were a student who had to do prerequisites, were they helpful? And then can you talk a little bit about your experience doing the prerequisites and even other people in your cohort's experience doing prerequisites?
I did.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, no,
Renata.
go ahead, Lacey.
Are you sure? Okay, so I did have to take prerequisites. I was one of the ones who only had to take the 2. So I was able to do that kind of mash up in that January start before the May cohort all went together. And honestly, I did not think of that at all as kind of a negative or like a roadblock. I had gotten my master's in 2014. So it had been a long time since I was in the world of academia and Blackboard and getting myself back into the routine. So I actually really appreciated the opportunity to kind of jump in at a little bit slower pace to back in this world of kind of orienting myself with reading articles and writing assignments and those types of things again. So, and like Amy kind of spoke to, it did give me an opportunity through discussion board and things to kind of get to know a few of my cohort mates before we all started together. So that was really nice too. So I definitely would not think of it if you have to take the prerequisites as kind of like a bad thing or like one more thing you have to do before it starts, because I did feel like it was very positive and it's very well structured and it's doable for sure.
I agree with everything Lacey just said, and I have nothing to add. That's exactly what I found too.
And I'll just say, every cohort so far, we've had over half of the students have to do 1 or 2 prerequisites. So it's not uncommon. It's really not. And then we've had some students who clearly didn't need to do any. And so, yeah, it's not anything negative at all or an indication of you might be behind or anything like that. So, yeah. Great. And the nice thing, as I said, we do keep you with your doctoral students. And so you get to know each other, which is kind of a nice piece as well. So this next question, what do students typically do after they complete their doctorate in reading science from MSJ? Or their plans to do? Why did you do this and what do you hope to do with this next?
When I started the program, I was a Title I reading specialist at a local public school and transitioned, I think year 2, into my role at Patton, becoming an educational consultant for the state and being able to go in and work with districts on a different level. But I also think it helped open up opportunities to work with different organizations as well, and kind of present to different national conferences and things. So it's not just primary employment, it's also different opportunities to just get out there and make connections and share in different ways too, to be able to pay back, pay it forward.
I'll say that even before I graduated a few weeks ago, I was asked to start teaching at MSJ. So those things just fall into your lap. So I'm really excited to be working alongside Jamie in the graduate program. So, and there's a lot of opportunities are going to come your way. So I think I'm not quite sure what my next steps are going to be, but because you're being associated with this institution and this program, many things start to come your way, which is very exciting for us.
Great. All right, the last question, kind of wrap us up. And I do have on the very last slide contact information, but I'm going to stop sharing and give people a chance to think about, why did you choose MSJ and why might you encourage other people to choose MSJ for their doctoral studies? Because we know you have choices. So why MSJ?
That was a kind of an easy one for me. So I actually did do the master's program, And because of doing the master's program several years back, I, for the first time, experienced what it was like to exit a program actually feeling prepared with things I could implement, immediately. And prior to that, in my undergrad, there was a lot of philosophy and theory, but I didn't really feel a sense of direction. So I knew that I got so much out of the master's. Also, just learning how to be a critical consumer of research. And it was that thing that drew me back. So, I did look at other doctoral programs, but when I found out that MSJ was creating one, I waited because I knew that that was what I wanted in a program. It wasn't about getting credentials, it was about getting knowledge. And so for me, it was just kind of a easy choice to make based on my previous experience.
Thank you.
For me, I think like most, had researched several programs and had some that I was interested in. It was really appealing to have it part-time. I didn't really want to quit my job. I also didn't want to move either. So the ability to do this program, and to be able to keep doing the things I like and to keep living where I like to live was really appealing. And I also just found it really helpful. I really wanted to join this program because I found it helpful that, as varied and diverse as our experience and interests are as a cohort, I think we all have a shared knowledge background and we all have a shared interest. And I think that was really helpful for cohesion across the cohort and to make sure that every piece of learning that we have, every course and every interaction with faculty, it's all related to structured literacy and reading science. It's not something where I would be trying to sort of target my dissertation around something structured literacy based and have other people in the cohort doing something that was different. So I think just that sort of unified focus that really aligned with what I wanted to do was really appealing.
I think that unified focus was really important to me. I have 2 masters. I've been in school, I've been teaching, and I still felt like I needed something more. And I felt like I needed to be better for my students. And in doing that, I started trying to teach myself, right? I started buying books on my own and trying to learn everything I could. And I knew that that wasn't enough. I wanted something structured. And I looked at a lot of schools and I looked through all their coursework and it didn't feel complete to me. It didn't feel complete until I came across a recording of the first webinar and I thought about it for a minute and I didn't apply for cohort, like the first cohort. I waited because I wanted to be sure, when you make a commitment to doing something that you're really going to do it. And this was just the best place. It had the courses that I saw, the titles of the courses, everything seemed to be exactly what I was looking for. And then to have a group of people that wanted to learn the same thing was just like a cherry on top.
And to piggyback off of Mercedes a little bit, I do think the cohort piece of this program is tremendous. Like, I know a couple people have already noted it, but like it really does become your family and it is a support network, but it is also so many more things. Like I was just texting one of the friends from the cohort and she was helping me problem solve to help support a teacher and a parent in my district with a struggling reader. And I know like she's a past school psychologist. And so she had access to some things. So like you have this diverse network of colleagues that you're always going to be connected to and are a text or a phone call away to help you. And that's so powerful because not only are you kind of in the trenches together, you're going through the same coursework together. They're there to support you and check in on you. And it's really powerful. You're not on an island kind of by yourself doing your own thing. And I knew to get to the end, I needed something like that. It really is powerful. And I can't say enough times how important that is as a part of this program.
I want to say I agree with everything that everyone has said, especially the cohort. Lacey, I was going to say that again, even though I already said it. It's an incredible model. For me, the other major aspect that drew me to MSJ was the social justice piece. And I felt inspired when I heard Dr. Murdoch talk for the first time. And I didn't feel inspired when I was researching other programs. And so I knew for me, when I felt moved, this was it. And if I couldn't get into this, I wasn't doing anything else. So I think that's a huge thing for me. And I know in my cohort, it keeps us going, that we are doing big things for little people that deserve it across the nation and not just in zip codes that have different things than other zip codes. So I do think that that's something that's really special about this program. And that is the reason I think I fell in love with it.
That's a great one to end on. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you, all of you, for sharing your experiences. If I had to say why MSJ for me, and Nicole, you already made me start crying, and now, as you do, is the people. And people said this. I mean, I get to work with amazing colleagues, and I get amazing colleagues through the doctoral students. I was genuinely excited to join this call this morning or this afternoon because I got to see all these amazing people, and some of them I haven't gotten to see as frequently as I used to see. And so I think that's it. You know, we're all drawn to the science of reading because we want to make the world better. And so you just meet amazing people because of that, because they're all coming with that passion and that collaboration spirit, because it's not about us, it's about the work. And so I think we're fortunate to be able to do this work with, you know, with these people. And so that's my why MSJ. So I hope this session was helpful to you in terms of figuring out if we are a good match for you. You got some great advice around ways to explore if this is the right program for you, and if it is, how to apply and how to kind of make the most of your application. So we appreciate your time this evening. Thank you so much to my panelists. Thanks, Allison, for your voice as well. And yeah, have a wonderful evening. Thanks so much for joining us, everyone.